This is the Mid-America PTTC podcast, where we believe prevention is better together, and together we are stronger. I'm your host, Steve Miller. This is episode 58, and in today's podcast, I have the pleasure of speaking with Captain Dana Mitchell. After serving 26 years in law enforcement, Mitchell spent no time in retirement, transitioning instead to civilian work coordinating Dover Youth to Youth, an empowerment program where students are part of the solution to the drug and violence problem. Each year, Youth to Youth conducts a wide variety of programs, including educational presentations, creating and recording video, radio PSAs, and conducting a wide variety of awareness initiatives. In addition to winning several national awards, Dover Youth to Youth is well known for their multimedia youth-taught presentations to students and or adults on implementing youth empowerment programs, capacity building, and advocacy skill development. The One Voice Toolkit of resources is available to coalitions and communities, with staff and students continuously providing training on-site and virtually. Before we get into the content, we would like to thank our funder, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Quick note, although funded by SAMHSA, the content of this recording does not necessarily reflect the views of SAMHSA. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. Well, welcome to the podcast for Mid-America PTTC, Dana Mitchell. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Happy to have you here as a guest.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here with you.
Well, up front, I'll let everybody know that I've been a big fan of the work that Dover Youth to Youth has been doing for a number of years. Have a possession of one of the toolkits in the past with the previous role that I have, so I'm somewhat familiar with it, but I'm certainly no expert. We'll find out more about that from the expert as we get into this. But that's why I said we got a lot of ground to cover, because it's exciting to me, and I hope that the audience gets as much out of it as I have when we've had conversation in the past. So the first question I always like to know is, tell us in your own words, what exactly was your path into prevention?
Well, my path into prevention, a little bit non-traditional. I started in law enforcement right out of college and did that, as you said, for 26 years. And while I was a captain in the city of Dover Police Department, the chief, the brand new chief, decided the police department needed to take the lead on prevention in the community. There wasn't enough prevention and substance abuse related work going on. So he called me and said, we're going to do more about substance abuse prevention. So let me know how it works. And off we went. And I started from nothing and had to kind of find my way into the prevention world, and we started a community coalition, and we got some help with that. And as part of that, I had this sort of strange thought of, I wonder if the youth, instead of being the source of the problem, could be the source of part of the solution, and could they be a role as part of harnessing the entire community under the work of the police department. So that was the way back in 1992 was the germ of an idea where we tried to started in the Dover Middle School and recruited for who wants to be in this group that we're going to put together where students will be involved in drug prevention. And we started off that year with 11 students, 10 girls and 1 boy. And they were all 6th graders. They didn't know what they were doing, and neither did I. And just sort of, it would seem to be like, well, how hard could that be getting kids involved in drug prevention? But if there was no template to go by, and there was really no resource to kind of guide that type of idea at that time. So succeeded in getting, doing some things that worked well and making some wrong turns and having to backtrack and making, some mistakes and saying, finally, after, a couple years of kind of zigging and zagging, we kind of discovered, this seems to work, and started looking at, why does this work? What all of a sudden the students started swarming into the program, and there was a lot of interest, in the community, and the kids became fired up, and we kind of, looked at, what's making this work. And over the course of in the first few years, we kind of refined that and, worked it into a system. And it wasn't very long after that where people started asking us, hey, could your kids come and train my kids? And, how do you do what you do in prevention? People started coming to us and saying, can I sit in on one of your meetings? What are you doing here that seems to work so well? Really, the bottom line on it is what we discovered is that we were running an empowerment program, a youth empowerment program. And that is what attracted the kids, the idea of getting empowered and making a difference in the community. And our model of youth empowerment is knowledge, skills, and then they take action. So developing a level of expertise on whatever they want to take action in, and then giving them the core advocacy skills that they would need to effectively take that action. And with kids, if as soon as they can understand a problem, they have some knowledge, they want to just jump right in and do something about it. And we were very diligent about making sure that before they did anything out in the public, that they had adult or near adult skills to take the action they wanted to take. And that resulted in them doing some things that really got noticed, because they were operating in the adult world in a very effective way. So when those students went before the Dover City Council and they're proposing a change in the city ordinance to make a certain area a non-smoking area, they understood the legislative process, they understood the issue, they understood how to prepare testimony, how to deliver testimony, and all of those things were practiced and practiced and practiced. And so by the time they did it, they were more effective than the typical adult that gets up in front of the council to talk about an issue. So that really caused people to kind of take them seriously instead of being, oh, what a nice bunch of cute kids. They have a lot of enthusiasm. It was like, wow, those people, those kids, those people know what they're talking about. They're prepared. And we just stuck to that formula of developing a level of expertise, developing high level public speaking skills, media development skills, legislative policy change skills, or whatever it is, bringing that up to a very high level, and then letting them go at it out in the community.
You really are teaching how to implement what a lot of people in prevention would know, the strategic prevention framework. I mean, you're just not saying, let's say no to these substances. You're giving these young people some practical tools to make effective change in their community or environmental level change. And I know the last time you and I had talked, and it's been some time ago, you have a large number of young people involved, and you mentioned earlier you kind of recruited from the sixth grade level, but you've had kids all across the middle school and high school spectrum, and if memory serves, you've even had some, I'll say, mentorship opportunities with some like kids that have graduated and are at a college level that are kind of helping. And so that's what's always impressed me is, one, the level of engagement, and two, just the sheer number of students that you do have involved.
Right. We started with just sixth graders, and we try to recruit for students that are going into sixth grade as an entry level thing. But each year that first group got older and older, and then we brought in a new group underneath that. And at some point, the older kids really enjoyed helping the younger kids get up to speed and involved with the kinds of things that we would do. And at some point, these very talented kids, many of them who stayed with us for 7 years from 6th grade right through 12th grade, go off to college, and they would stay connected. And as college students, be part of presentations that we were doing, or webinars that we were doing, or come in and help us during the summer and work with us during the summer. In some cases, we would offer college fellowships of $1,200 for college students who would work with us doing training and other developmental programs with the younger kids. And we would provide them with some assistance with their tuition in return for their help during the summer, and sometimes during the school year if they go to a local college. So we have people that right through 4 years of college, after being with us for 7 years, continuing to work with us. And we have 3 people on staff that did that, and we ended up hiring them. So for us, it became a workforce development program, crazy enough. None of which is what we had thought of when we first started down this road. Did we ever think we would get to this point? We had much more modest ideas about what this would become, and it just grew into something much more substantial because the students were there and they were motivated and they were willing to do the work. And there's nothing weird in the water in the city of Dover. The kids, like the kids I have, that some of whom that you've met and seen present, they're in every community of anyone who's listening to this. Those kids, those same type of kids are there in your community. And it's a matter of, does the adult world create the opportunity, the superstructure for them to be involved? They're not going to organize themselves organically without some sort of adult support structure.
Is there a method to your recruitment, or have you guys just been established long enough that people kind of know that this entity exists in the community? Is there an approach that you take with the school or whatever venue you happen to be sourcing from that opens that door?
Yeah, there is. The situation we're in is different from someone listening who's looking at starting a program like this. So they have a little club in the high school and they want to transition it to a more youth empowerment type of model. The recruitment would be different from them. For us, we're very established, so what we have to be careful of is not to over recruit and have more students than we can effectively engage. So we only recruit new kids coming out of the 5th grade going into the 6th grade, where somebody else would do a broader based recruitment to get started, even if they mostly started with younger kids and built up from there like I did originally.
What do you think the key is there? Because this is fascinating to me, the success that you've had in that these are 5th graders and they're making, a decision to get involved in some kind of an extracurricular activity. And I'm certain that they don't fully understand it when they begin, but for them to stay connected and to stay committed. And I know you mentioned the word empowerment, but what do you think it is about this process that they're getting to participate in that really keeps them not only engaged, but active and productive?
Well, you're right. A lot of them get involved in it, and they don't fully understand exactly how it will affect them and the potential of it. And there's always some kids, get busy as they get older and will drop out of it because softball or football is taking up more of their time now, and so you do lose a few that way. Well, we kept a lot of them, and the ones we kept, there's a lot of kids out there that want to change the world. There's a lot of kids out there that would like to make things better. They not only do they not care to be using drugs, but they would like to, be part of a positive force in their community. That's very attractive to a lot of kids. They're out there. They're not kids that are running around shouting shouting up and down the main street saying, I want to be in a program, I want to change the world. But there's kids that take that kind of thing very seriously, and they really want and they value being a part of something like that. They also value being a part of something that's significant and important with their friends, and being part of something that's significant and important where they can tell, boy, I'm learning some things. I'm learning to speak in front of an audience in a way that I can see that my classmates don't have. And that's, so using that as an example, almost everything you do in prevention requires communicating verbally, whether that's testifying before a legislature, or it's speaking to an audience, or it's recording a radio spot, or doing a podcast. Prevention work requires, in many, many cases, verbal communication. And a lot of people are terrified of that. A lot of adults are really very uncomfortable with that. So for a kid who's in sixth grade to get trained in the skill of speaking effectively to an audience, the skill of teaching a classroom and working an audience, and losing their fear of that is very empowering. And it's a skill that's important in prevention. But what kids come back and tell us is, I use this again and again for job interviews. I use, or get another job, and it requires speaking to the public. And a lot of our college students will say, it's almost unfair. I have this skill, because in college they want you to talk in class, and there's more pressure to do that kind of thing. And what they realized is that our kids will come back and say, this is easy for me, and I have all these friends that I'm working with, and they're just horrified at having to get up in front of the class and do this speaking, and it's just sort of so second nature for them. So these skills are great for prevention, but they carry that confidence and those skills into everyday life.
Yeah, that was one of the things that early on when I learned about your products, is that it was more than just doing prevention, that you're building some life skills for any of the individuals that choose to engage in it. So I'm curious, are there any current projects or something that the teens are engaged in that you'd like to kind of flesh out a little bit, just as an example of some of the stuff that you guys are doing?
Okay. Well, our students are, when they take action, they get the knowledge, they have the skills, and they're ready to take action. Most everything they do falls into either the category of teaching somebody something, policy change, an awareness school or community awareness project, or something, something media related. So we always have, a variety of projects that are in the works. Right now, we're doing it's the National Prevention Network Conference is in 2 weeks, and we are booked to teach a 1-hour session on youth empowerment. The students are going to teach that at NPN. So that's on August 23rd. We're doing that. And we are engaged to go to the state of Georgia and teach their youth advocates for a couple of days in January. And we're going to Benton and Franklin County, Washington, to teach their students, to teach their adult advisors, and adult advisor training in late September. So we have a lot of training that's in the works. We just launched a vaping campaign called the Lab Rat campaign. If that spikes anyone's interest, they can reach out to me and ask for some materials on that. I'll be glad to send that out or email them examples of the posters we've created. But it's all, the slogan is, this is the students talking, we're not your lab rats, and they're talking to the vape industry. So that's their message out to the public about the vape industry and to the vape industry itself. And they have a lot of very good graphics in the forms of posters and things like that that are going up in the schools that are part of this campaign. So we got a lot of things like that going on.
Well, that's great because, just as you're describing that, it just impresses me. It actually touches me that these kids are really this passionate about it. And what's impressive is I remember when you first and I talked about this, I was thinking, you mean the kids are the ones that are actually doing these trainings? Like you're talking about at the NPN conference and out in Washington. And you said, yeah, the kids are the ones that lead this. They're either leading the conversation and the training with adults or with the coalition students themselves. And it's like, to me, that's the true nature of empowerment. I mean, that's a fantastic program to be behind. And I'm sure that, if the audience is listening now, has some understanding of what we're talking about, they'll want to maybe take that next step forward. And I'll make sure that in the show notes, we connect with your email and so forth. But I thought maybe we'd spend a little time talking about your toolkit, and just kind of what that is and what a listener might expect when they unboxed it to be able to receive.
Well, there's a lot of information about our toolkit on our website as well, and it can be purchased off of our website, doverwide.org. But it is basically a compilation of all of the resources that we use to train our kids. There's a series of modules. Each module is a self-contained unit that either provides you the resources you need to teach your students about media development, about policy change, about pop culture influences on alcohol use, about how to teach presentation skills to youth. And the toolkit is a binder of these modules. Some of them are skill development modules, like presentation skills. Some of them are action modules that is an action project you could choose to do with your youth, such as a certain presentation that your kids could learn to teach, or giving you the resources for them to record a radio public service announcement, including scripts or theatrical skits, or projects they could do, like the Lab Rat campaign is now in the toolkit, so they can have all the resources in there. Comes with a flash drive, and each flash drive has a folder that corresponds to a module. So after you read the module in the binder, you can go to the flash drive, and it has all the resources that you would need to implement that module. So if someone out there says, "Oh, I need to teach my kids presentation skills," you could go to the presentation skills module, learn what you need to know as an adult advisor about presentation skills, then go to the flash drive, and on the flash drive would be the lesson plan we use, the PowerPoint we use, the exercises we use, all things you would need to implement that. You don't have to come up with your own PowerPoint or training format. It's all done for you. And that's sort of, that principle applies to any module. If it's a campaign, then just take the Lab Rat campaign as an example. The press release we use to announce it would be on the flash drive. And all of the Microsoft publisher files that we use to make different, the palm card to make the posters, all of those things are there and made available to you. Or if we made something in Canva, if you're familiar with that, then that file would be there so that you could take the same posters, tweak it, modify it, put your own information on it, and then you'd have your poster done really quick. So that's the toolkit. It's a toolkit. It's not a curriculum. Curriculum, you start on unit 1 and you go through unit 2, 3, 4, and do it exactly in that order. It's a toolkit. If you need a hammer, you reach for a hammer. If You need a screwdriver, you don't reach for a hammer. So you reach for the tool that you need depending on where you are with the group of kids you're working with.
And it is a constantly evolving resource. Like you said, if someone already possessed it, they could get access to the Lab Rat campaign that you've been working on as an ongoing, I guess, resource, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Well, they can, because we have a constant contact list, and as long as people keep their email up to date in our database, they get notified if there's new materials, and we provide that to the toolkit owners. If we come up with something brand new, they can reach out to us and get that if they want it.
So aside from the toolkit, I mean, what else, I've been to your site, so I know, but if I've never been there before, what else might a first-time visitor, learn or encounter? What other resources or tools might be there?
Your listeners can reach out. Your listeners can reach out to me, and we have a Vimeo site that's similar to YouTube, but it has larger videos on it. And all of our webinars we do are recorded and then put on our Vimeo library. So people they missed our webinar, or they just, they're interested in a webinar we're not offering this year. So they can go to our site and call up the webinar on how to develop media messages with youth and watch that 1 hour webinar. They can watch the webinar on presenting skills or whatever topic they wanted to, including a 1 hour webinar on administering a youth empowerment program, where we talk about a lot of these things that we're talking about today. But it goes on to give, more examples and that type of thing. So someone who's really serious about youth empowerment would do well to watch a webinar like that. So that Vimeo account, we have a YouTube channel people can access readily, and the website has a wide range of ideas and resources on it. It's designed for other people to use and get ideas from. So, and also, if you provide your listeners with my email address and website and all that, we're always glad to just take cold calls in the office and just chat with somebody from 1,000 miles away and discuss what they're trying to do, and we offer advice, and it's just always glad to chat with somebody and spend 20 minutes with them on the phone, or do a quick Zoom with them and give them the benefit of our experience on the process of starting a youth empowerment group or invigorating one that's sort of a little casual and a little less structured than the kind of thing I'm talking about. They're doing you have these groups that sometimes they do a couple of projects and they sponsor a dance, and that's all great stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. But if sometimes people say, we want to ramp this up a little bit and make it a more intense experience, how do we do that? That's a great conversation to have with us, and we're always glad to help people out like that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm sure there's people listening that appreciate the resource being available and the invitation to engage in it. I guess as a parting thought before we get away, I always like to know, is there just one thing maybe we didn't touch on, or there's one thing that you always like to make sure the audience knows, or that maybe you want to challenge them to do before we say goodbye?
Well, the one thing I always like to make sure I leave in people's minds, and I've already alluded to it, is that those youth are out there. Some communities don't take advantage of them, don't take advantage of the potential that they have to be a positive influence in the community, because it does require, if it's going to be the kind of program I'm discussing, it does require the adults in the community that have the power to make it possible. It would be very unlikely, you wouldn't have a national Little League program if there weren't adults who were committed to youth being engaged in sports And you're not going to have the kind of engagement with prevention like I'm talking about unless there are adults in that region who will provide the resources and the time and the expertise to, take these kids who have no prevention experience and bring them along in a system that's still fun and still engaging and rewarding for them. So that's the challenge to people that aren't doing this kind of thing, is that you're missing a great opportunity. But and a lot of them would like to do that, and if we can help out, sure be glad to help out anybody out there, anywhere.
Appreciate that. And as always, it's wonderful to have a conversation with you. I want to thank you for being here today. And hopefully we'll have you come back another time.
Anytime, Steve. Always glad to work with you. It's good to see you again. And it looks like you're really working it hard here in your new position here with PTTC. So
it's been great. So, and it sounds like maybe I'm planting a seed with you. You said, hey, maybe we should look at podcast with Dover Youth to Youth. So maybe we'll, if that gets off and running, maybe we'll learn more about that in the future.
Yeah. And it's, you got me thinking about that. So that's a vehicle that we have not used in the past. And is there a role for that? So we're always on the lookout for the next thing to expand what we do. And actually, we've just started here in New England, our regional PTTC has reached out to us. We're actually planning a webinar to do with them in October.
Well, good. I'll be in the audience for that. I always enjoy watching what the kids have to present on. And anytime that I've been at a conference where you guys are, I always try to be sure and be in the audience, because the little known secret about a lot of this is I seem to learn more from them than they sometimes seems like they learn from me. So
often the case.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here. I sure appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
And thank you for listening to this Mid-America PTTC podcast. To learn more about any upcoming trainings, visit pttcnetwork.org and look under your PTTC for the Mid-America link. Remember, prevention is better together, and together we are stronger.